All right, guys, welcome back to the show. I'm super excited for today's episode because there's a lot of new and even experienced real estate agents out there who are kind of struggling, especially in here in this beginning of 2023 with a kind of a changing market. And so today we're going to be talking all about, how to master your sales strategy and how to master your sales so that you can go ahead and hit your goals here in 2023 and beyond and take these skill sets to be very successful even beyond what you can imagine as well. But in any case, I do want to bring on my guest today. His name is Dan Beecher, and he has been a sales trainer for his entire career. And now he's bringing his knowledge here to the real estate agent world. So I'm excited to bring on my guest, and welcome to the show, Dan.
Thank you for having me, Kobe. It's an honor to be here.
Yeah, no, it's it's an honor to have you. And it's kind of like just starting off right off the bat, for anybody who might not kind of know who you are or haven't seen some of the stuff that you've been posting on your social media on Facebook, which has been wonderful information. Would you mind kind of just telling us a little bit more about yourself, your background, how you came to be kind of this sales trainer for other real estate agents as well?
No, absolutely. Appreciate that. So my background, so for the past 19 years, I've been a sales trainer. I was a recruiter in the Marine Corps. So I've literally just been in recruiting for that time in my career. During that time, I was also a real estate agent. And what I found over the years, what I learned in recruiting and I learned watching other real estate agents over the years is the constant struggle, the constant confidence that they were lacking. Even in the Marine Corps, they needed development. We had a 3-year window, but they specifically were focusing on the first 9 months of their evaluation. And this is after an 8-week school of sales training and public speaking and everything else. Then they go through a 9-month evaluation. And it takes them about 2 years before they actually get really solid and confident and are really going with the flow. Now let's look at it as a real estate agent. How much training did they actually get? What would you say?
Right. In the beginning of their careers,
Yes,
uh, probably not as much as the Marines have gotten
not
from you
as
described.
much. They take a course and then they go to work. And what I have found is a lot of agents are not getting trained. They're not getting that attention. And I'm not putting this on the broker because the broker's got their own stuff going on, but it's live or die type of business. But I've seen so many agents over the years that have struggled and they really don't know what to do. I'll give you an example. The turnover rate in the United States for agents within 5 years is 85%. 85%. That it's like kind of like the 80-20 rule, right?
Yep.
20% are getting the business, but what's happening with the little guy? So that's what my program really focuses on. If you look at the average income within 2 years, they average about $8,900 a year, the little people. And you wonder why they get out. Where if you could focus a way to actually get people on the phone and sell them and learn to promote yourself along the way, you could have a life sustaining business at the end of the day. And that's one thing that we promote in our coaching.
Yeah. And I think that's going to be very beneficial as well, because like, you're exactly right. Like 85% of people, real estate agents just drop out of the business. And most of
Yeah.
them is because they don't really know what to do, right? You don't get the sales training and really the training. I think we're all thinking of like the official real estate agent training that you get. It's just kind of learning the laws, right? The one that you take when you get your license. There's no sales training involved in that. So kind of when it comes to that, right? So what can a real estate agent do, especially in the very beginning, if they don't really have like a sales background? What are some things they can be kind of doing right now to, learn that skill, right? What are some tips you can give these agents? They're out there, they're talking to people, but they don't necessarily know how to convert them. Maybe they're a little bit shy. Maybe they have the wrong impression that they might be, trying to hard sell somebody. So what are some ways that, brand new agent that just got their license and they want to start talking to people? What can they start doing now?
Well, first thing they could do is if they really want to seek out a mentor and they're not getting it within the office, first thing I would do is find out somebody who's doing it right at the end of the day. There's got to be somebody in that office that is like, no kidding, hammering it down the winner. If they're willing to give them the time, even just observe them and watch what they do. Next, I would join my private Facebook page, professional development and sales support group. because I mean, I offered one today about how to open a conversation and create dialogue, interaction along the way. So that's one thing they can do. And then I offer a couple different programs as well for agents that are struggling. I offer a very basic package for just learning, taking a year and learning sales, marketing, all that stuff. So when they come out of the program, they have a great foundation of sales. They know how to generate leads. They know how to talk to those leads and sell them. Plus, they learn how to brand themselves through social media.
Mm, that's
So it's a
pretty.
really good program.
Yep, that's pretty important as well. I think a lot of people are leaning towards the branding themselves on social media now, these days, especially I think with a changing market, right? They need to spend less money on paid ads and more so on their own personal brand, so that way they can cut down their expenses, but also continue to generate leads online. So
Great.
that's actually, you brought up a pretty good point on generating leads. I think the first struggle most new agents have is generating leads. So if you were kind of in that position, how would you kind of solve that issue? Because we all know what they teach, at kind of the traditional training. You go out there and you call these people. There's this list. There's this list. But is that what you think the right approach is, or do you have a different approach for a brand new agent trying to just get the business?
So when people go into the course, we go through a whole whiteboard of we'll get the sheets out and we'll actually brainstorm on different ideas that you can do it, because it's changing all the time. But within the office itself, you have to look at volunteering for phone duty. You want to look at getting as many open houses as you can. And some people like funnels. Some
Hmm.
people like to buy funnels. I know bold leads is a big one. People will do that so they can actually generate leads that way. But normally within a company, there's resources on there that you can get that will help you start to generate the leads. People for some reason think that they're always going to come to you. Okay. And that just doesn't happen. I mean, I'm working in an office where the traffic is so crazy. Nobody's coming into our office. It's very rare. So you have to get out. Where I was in an office yesterday because they had some problems with some of the agents with their phone prospecting. So I went there and did some training, and there must have been 4 or 5 people that walked into that office. But guess how many agents were there in that specific room? Zero.
Zero
They
agents.
were in the training, and they only came in because of the training. They are not normally there, is what the broker was telling me. She's like, I normally deal with all the walk-ins.
Hmm.
So there's just little things they can do along the way. What I'll work with them in the social media aspect of it is when they get in there, I'm going to show them how to generate through social media, and then I'm going to show them how to prospect them to actually close on them and actually get more sales along the way. So they'll learn a multiple of different things. It's just things that are just around you all the time that they don't understand, that you can start generating leads right away, but they don't realize that the resources are right in front of them and nobody
Right.
tells them.
Right.
Does that answer
Yeah.
your question?
No, certainly does. And I think a lot of agents, they just needed to hear that, right? Because it's more about kind of looking around you and figuring out what you can be doing now, instead of kind of waiting for leads to just kind of show up at your front door and say, hey, here's
Mhm.
a contract. All you got to do is sign it, right? And then you get your
Yep.
commission check. There's a lot of things that agents can be doing, and they're just kind of limiting what they're thinking, and they're not necessarily looking around them to see what can they be doing right now to start generating leads. So,
I'll give you an example. I had when I was training Marines and we were bringing them to the high schools, they would get very timid. They would
mhm.
get really stressed out about going to a high school because now they're 17-year-old kids. These guys are in their 20s, but it's like I haven't been in high school in forever, and it can be kind of scary a little bit. You want to think that for a Marine. Now compare it to a realtor who's going to do an open house. So what I think causes their leads not to really absorb and really multiply is they're not exposing themselves enough.
Hmm.
They got to get out there. Like I'm saying, the open houses. I know one agent, one of my great mentors, the guy hands out 30 business cards a day, and he will not go home until he hands out at least 30. That means he's talking to 30 people. I absolutely love it. And I think I heard one of your guys speak the other day, somebody you were interviewing that talked about getting 20 contacts or whatever
Yeah.
in a day. I think that's great. I mean, you have to look at that type of volume. That's something else we do in our program. If you're in my coaching program, I have a group coaching and then I have a private coaching. First thing we do is look at your numbers. We look at where you're at, And then we gradually go through what you need to do on a daily basis to get that goal that you want. Let's say you want to make $100,000. We'll narrow it down to how many calls you need, how many hands you need to shake, how many doors you need to knock on, all that good stuff, where they just have a basic blueprint system that they can go out and do every day. Right now, that's another thing. They just don't have a plan.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I think there's do you think, when it comes to agents not doing stuff like that, is it more just so they don't have the direction and the plan, or is it, somehow they kind of know what they have to do, but they don't really do it, mostly because of fear? Like we were just saying, that, even when a Marine, right, you think, these are the toughest people in the world. They, sometimes they have fear even just going to a high school to trying to pitch their, the recruiting deck. So do you think
Yeah,
it just comes from a place of fear for a lot of agents to not be able to go out there, maybe knock 20 doors or make, 20 contacts on the phone?
I do. If you don't have the skills, and a lot of people think they need to sell. A lot of what we talk about in our sales program is how to be a person, how to talk to people. I mean, like I said, when you and I first talked, sales is about helping people. It's about taking care of people. And the more they learn to do that, the more genuine they become. And that's what we break out of them. But they are absolutely, they're afraid. There's two things that change us: inspiration or desperation. Desperation's when
Right.
we're hungry. We need something.
Right.
Inspiration, it takes a lot. You know where a lot of people get that inspiration through? They get it through mentors. They get it through coaches. They get it through training programs, which is where we're at in our lives right now. There's been so much put out about self-help programs, and I'll give you an example. What turned my career, what turned my path, and even maybe beyond recruiting in the Marine Corps, was Robert Kiyosaki. When I read that man's book, Rich Dad Poor Dad, oh my God, it opened up my doors to self development. And after I read his book, I got this right here. I pulled it out this morning. Remember this course? You remember this course?
No
This
down
is no
payment.
down payment. Yeah. This is like in the 80s or the 90s. This is like one of the original how to buy real estate programs. And it's even on cassette. But when I looked at this, I'm like, you need to always develop yourself, as a human being. And even some of the higher level coaches that I deal with, they have coaches themselves. So they have some sort of development. I think the more that people stay with something, a group, whatever it is, a mastermind group, somebody that can really cheer them on, it keeps them getting out the door. But right now, if you walk into a real estate office in New York, nobody's in the office. Ever since COVID, they work from home. They don't. They're not. And this is why we have 85% that get out of the business. So
Right.
definitely, I completely agree with you. They're afraid, but we can overcome that fear. We can take a kitty cat and we can turn them into a lion. They just have to get out the door and build that confidence.
Right. Exactly. And I think a lot of agents they don't do that, right? And that's why they build up their fears to be so much bigger than it is. Because I think, one of the things my great mentors told me is that, data kills fear. And if you have a lot of data, then it kills the fear. Because, like there's one example where, if you see a bunch of people jumping off a cliff, then it's safe to jump off the cliff into the water. Where, if you didn't see that, then you might be thinking there's rocks or spikes at the bottom, and then you actually don't go and jump. But with that new data, you actually are able to kill that fear. So do you think, should an agent, just start going out there and start trying things? And, because, when you're doing something, right. And this is something else that I've heard, like when you're in the action of actually, pursuing, what you want to do, the fear goes away, because you're focused in the moment. So do you think an agent should just go out there and do it? And I know that's probably the hardest part, is just going and taking action. But and maybe they just need to hear it from you that they should just go out there and do it.
I 100%. They should
Yeah.
definitely do it. I probably wouldn't try. I would just do, just like
Right.
Yoda said. But at the end of the day, they have to get out there and they have to get over that fear. What really builds repetition and muscle memory is that constant practice, reps and sets. So I'll give you an example. My boys, I do Jeet Kune Do. So I do
Mm.
Bruce Lee's art. I found a mentor. He's one of like five guys in the world that actually teach his art. And it's amazing philosophy. He's very much a philosopher. But when you first read the Tao Jeet Kune Do, you're like, I'm this is too much for me, this philosophy thing. But when you learn the art, you realize that, okay, if I learn to do an effective punch, the right hook, uppercut, a kick, and I keep on doing it. He used to say it happens all by itself. That was his art. It became fluid. My boys, I started them in Taekwondo because this school I only go to once a week. It's a couple hours away. So the Taekwondo, they deal with forms and everything like that, and they're doing a great job. But there's a lot of hesitation in that art. Where the Jeet Kune Do, when they go, it's like very fluid because it's now. This is what we're doing. We're working for perfection. And it's the same with life. I taught this with sales. The more that you do, and if you're bad in something, keep on doing more of it. And you eventually you'll build that confidence. You'll get better where it's just automatic. And that's what I teach them in sales. It's not pretty. I mean, I do it right in my office here, and it's a whiteboard, and we go down to it, and I don't wait for the editing or anything like that, because I'm like, we're going now. It's about now. It's about that fight now. What are we going to do to overcome this? And that's what they're going to be dealing with when they're knocking on doors, when they're doing a sales presentation. What are you going to do in the moment? Well, we have to practice. We have to do those reps and sets to make you ready for that moment along the way where it becomes fluid.
Right. Absolutely. It's just, like you said, just muscle memory, right? The more you do something, the potentially better you're going to get. And I think for a lot of agents, they might have a question on is, what if they think they're always doing the wrong thing, right? So like you can practice, like the wrong move 1,000 times, but you might not necessarily, get the results that you want. So I think for an agent, they want to know maybe, what's like a good point to know that you're just not doing the right thing, and there may be something in there that you need to change. And how can they actually find that? Because you could be knocking on 100 doors a day and you get no results. And it could be just that you're not knocking on enough doors, but it also could be that you're saying the wrong thing, taking the wrong approach, and maybe just one small tweak can actually change the results.
That's a really great question. And that's something that we taught years ago, and I teach it in my program. First thing I would do is talk to your broker and say, hey, this is what I've been doing, and it's not getting me the result. Do you have any recommendations? Because a lot of times they can twist it and re readjust them and steer them in the right direction. But that one, they really need to just look at their numbers and they need to see if it's working. Now, another thing that we did is it might not be the fact that they're knocking on 100 doors, it might be their approach. So that's something that has to be analyzed. That's why we do an analysis, is to make sure, okay, this is what you're doing. I asked you to do this on a daily basis. Let's talk about what happened with this. You made 100 contacts and you didn't get anybody to say yes. What could that be a symptom of?
Right.
It's a sales issue. So we need to work on that. Or it could just be maybe they know all the sales steps, but they're, like snuffleupagus or something when they're out there, Eeyore. It's got to be energy, man. We know energy is half the battle out here, you know.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
answer your question, there's multiple ways, but it's not just one thing that it could be. And that's what we have to identify. That's why it's so important for them to talk to somebody, a coach, a mentor, so they can actually guide them along the way.
Absolutely, right? Because you don't know what you don't know, and you could be just doing the wrong approach, and you think it's the right thing, and then you start, because when we don't take responsibility, what do we do? Like we assign blame. So they assign blame to the homeowner, they assign blame to the market, the interest rates, whatever. They assign blame to everything else but them. But it could just be that if you talk to somebody else, you can get new information. Going back to what we were talking about with data killing fear, then they get more information and they just know, oh, just I was doing this one thing wrong, and they can now take responsibility for it and go out there, retry a new strategy, and get a little bit different results this time. So it's all
Yeah.
about kind of finding out more information. You got to seek more knowledge, seek more guidance from people like like yourself, who's come before and who's done it before. Because when you're starting out in something new, you don't know what you don't know. Yeah.
No, totally agree. And you know what? There's so many classes, there's so many free courses that either a broker's office has, for that knowledge you're talking about, or, National Association of Realtors. They have a whole bunch of benefits,
Yeah.
that you can get as well. And they have different classes. But it's really about knowledge. And the more you know, the more that you build over time, the better of a presenter you're going to be through data like you're talking about.
Right. And I think like in this day and age, it's just gotten so much easier for people to get that information, right? You can just, just go on YouTube and just type in, the skill set that you're looking to learn, and you can find different people with channels who've, they're, great people. They're like people like Grant Cardone
Mhm.
and Jordan Belfort, maybe a little bit controversial, but like they're putting out content every day on like how to, better your sales, better your conversion, better your lead generation, just
Yeah,
for free. And then you're doing it too on Facebook as well, and then on YouTube as well, just putting out free content for people to look at. And it's just so easily accessible. Just type it in on your phone, right? It's just between the line between success and failure now is just, do you want it? Do you want to look for it?
100% right. That's what it is. But again, it's inspiration, desperation. It's with those two things.
Yeah.
You know.
Right. And that's another good point, because I think this is something we also talked about as well. And I think you're really good at getting people to kind of understand is, there's a lot of times where people start a new career or new business and they're very, like you said, you're very inspired, whatever it might be. They want to, they set a goal for themselves. They're really excited about it, but they never really just follow through. We know so many people, who start a business and then 6 months later they're out of the business, right? So what do you think, is the differentiating factor? Because there's a lot of people, like you said, the skill set and the information is out there, but you have to go on and try to get it. You have to be inspired to, pursue that, but some people just, they're not. So what do you think is the differentiating factor here? What are some things that an agent can do like right from the start to be able to avoid burning out or just not being inspired 6 to 12 months later, and just trying a new business?
I like that one a lot. That's a good question. Um, I think whenever you take a course, like I was talking about before, all these motivation courses, they're great. I think if you take any of them and you see it through, you'll get a good result from it. Problem is 70% of the people drop out of it
Right.
very shortly. Because when you look at these courses, the first thing they do is they build up on excitement, right? You're like, rah, rah,
Yep.
rah, we're going to get it. I don't. I go right into, hey, this is going to be, we got to get the basics down first, and then we'll develop. And then your rah, rah, rah is going to be the results you're going to get at the end. So in business itself, people do the same thing. They're all excited, they're motivated. And then guess what happens? Influencers, your friends, the people you're surrounding yourself with, it could be the news. There's things that affect the mind. And then all of a sudden you get this thing in your head that says, I can't do this. And that's another reason why agents, have so much troubles. I can't do this, but there's talent in everybody. There's a special skill in everybody. And once you can find that and you're like, you know what, I can do this, it will blow you away. I'll give you an example. I'm in a higher level mastermind right now, and it's called Project Next Level. It's with Dean Graziosi and Tony Robbins. That thing that was a $10,000 course, but I'm telling you, it was worth it, because if you want to go to a next level, then you gotta pay, because they're gonna put in hours of time. I mean, this past weekend we put in 27 hours. It was just hammering projects and everything else and working with each other and helping each other out. But one thing that happened over the past 6 months was a major confidence booster, a different mindset than ever before. And I was already confident, but it took me to a different level. And it took so many people in this group to a different level. And that's what people need. And I'm not saying pay $10,000 for a course. Start small and learn. I put out on my channel a while ago, go to the 1,000% formula from Brian Tracy. He talks about reading an hour every day to feed your mind the right way. Listen to audios in the car that are in relation to your field. What are you doing? If I'm a realtor, I'm going to listen to that stuff. I'm going to listen to sales, self-development. And then what happens over time is you start feeding your mind with positive things. And all of a sudden you're like, okay, now I'm going, because you got the conscious, which is the gatekeeper, and then you got the subconscious. That's the one that's that motor inside your brain that
Yep.
just goes automatically. You feed it with the right stuff, and all of a sudden you're pedaling in a different direction. It's amazing. That's what I
Yep.
like to see in people. That's what I want to see.
Absolutely. And I love what you said about the outside influence around you, right? So your friends, the news, whatever it might be, people don't even realize they're feeding their mind every day with bad information, right? With stuff that's going to be discouraging them. And then, no wonder 6, 12 months later, you're back exactly where you began. And you're not you're not doing what you wanted to do. But like you said, right, if you take the effort right now to go and feed your mind the good information, go to masterminds, talking to people who are already successful, listening to, tapes that are going to be beneficial to you, listening to motivational tapes as well, to feed your mind good information, then, as time, passes, it starts to become your friend because you're feeding your mind, you're retraining and rewiring your brain for good information, and subconsciously you'll start believing a lot of the stuff that you're just feeding information to yourself throughout the day. So,
Oh yeah.
yeah.
You're going to believe what you feed it at the
Right.
end of the day. It's great.
Yeah, I like that. But yeah, I mean, so I think one of the other things for a lot of new agents just coming up is, you see so many people out there pay a lot of money or take a lot of time to go into these like training programs or masterminds, or, they'll put the hammer down and they'll pay like a couple grand for a big training package or a big course. And they do it and they either never finish the course, or they finish the course and they don't apply anything from it. So what is the way to kind of guard against that? Should a new agent be starting a little bit more smaller to kind of go in and maybe do a little bit, smaller level training just to kind of get up and go and get that momentum and then build up to the big one? Or is there something that they can be doing to not only take the really good, fancy trainings, but also start applying them immediately?
No, I like that. And don't get me wrong, the fancy trainings are very exciting. Um, but Bruce Lee always said, if you understand the roots of something, you'll understand the blossoming. And he always used plant references, stuff like that. So I think foundation is important to learn that first. I would not jump in because a lot of people say, oh, you know what, you pay for what you get, and you pay for this product, and you're going to get this, and that. Great, no problem. Then go do that. But I offer three different type of training packages. So it's called the journey, and it's all a year-long journey. So agents for $27 can go on the coaching course, and they can get 4 classes a month plus one Zoom training session from me at the end of each month. That's for $27. That's not even $1 a day. They're getting 4 training sessions, and we build them up from. I start with their foundation, and we focus on basic sales. We focus on presentation, basic social media, data analysis, and then we go to framing. And that's where we get a little bit more into advanced sales, which is what a lot of these programs try to say they are. But if you don't understand the root, it's very hard to understand how to keep that tree growing or that plant. So we really hone in on some dynamic stuff that people get. And then we work on building relationships through social media, how to prospect. And then they'll learn a little bit about copyright. How do I talk on through social media? What I need to say? How do I draw people in? How do I brand myself? And then after we complete construction, that's when we go into the building a conversation through social media, dealing more with what is it here? Just make sure I have everything in my notes the right way. Really getting into the actual presentation along the way, and being able to talk to people the right way. They're all going to all of a sudden be able to take everything they have, and they're going to be able to put it all together. And
Mhm.
that's where the real rush comes in. But it takes a long time. You have to hear something 300 times
Right.
normally to change a habit, right? They're going to be able to do that within this year, and they're going to change their habits. But I'm only working with the private coaching that I have. I'm only taking 20 people on, and that's $97 a month. So they get 4 training sessions, they get a Zoom training session, and they get an hour coach, or they get a coaching call with me every week. So that's a good one. If they don't want to go to that level, we have the medium package, which is the 4 training sessions. They still get the Zoom training, and then it's a once a week group training session that we do. We all get together and train. So a lot of different ways they can do it, but it's very inexpensive. And honestly, the reason I'm only taking 20 in the private is because of time. I have to be able to serve them and give the amount of time they want. Plus, I want to show that 20 what they can do. And then the
Mhm.
ones that are in the group one, they're eventually going to move on and go into a higher level. The idea is to get everybody gradually moving to a higher level, which is building their confidence, building their sales, building their connections, their knowledge. And when they come out of it, they're going to be, I'll tell you right now, if you read for an hour a day, how much would that impact your life?
Oh, absolutely. It would change my life. Actually, I did that and it did. So did it for a year and
Same.
it did. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I still do it. Now add all these different things, the sales, the social media, how to talk to people, how to prospect on social media,
Right.
all these different things. Plus, we're doing professional development training as well. Those things that get inside our head, those fears, we actually work on different training sessions and mechanisms to get past that as well.
Right. That's very important. And I think for agents this year, like the biggest investment they can make, or not just this year, but like any year really, is to in themselves. And when they invest in a program like this or any other program really out there, they're investing in themselves. And I really like the way you kind of structured it because like you said it was a journey, right? It's moving through that journey. It's getting leveling up, almost like you can think of like a video game character, right? You get your body armor first, right? And then when you have your body armor, you can go out there and get the sword and then the shield and the potions.
Yes. Yep.
And that's what they're doing, right? They're leveling up, right? For each little investment they're making in themselves, they're leveling up their skill sets. And when they level up their skill sets, now they have a better understanding. So they can now, you know, get the next skill set as well. Because like you're saying as well, sometimes there's a prerequisite for you to actually understand a certain amount of knowledge. And too many times a lot of the trainers out there, what I see is they're assuming knowledge that don't necessarily exist because they've been in the business for too long. So like an example of that would be, somebody who's maybe a top producer for 20 years, and then they put out this training for like new agents can join it. And what ended up happening is they're assuming the new agent knows information or has mastered information that they haven't yet, but they don't realize that because they've been in the business for 20 years and they're so detached from what a new agent experiences that they don't even know what they don't know. So
Yeah.
that's created a lot of issues, don't you think?
Oh, 100%. I mean, one thing I love about
Mm.
the coaching, even the group training, is when we're talking every week, I'm assessing what's going on with everybody. And I'm getting better ideas about what are the real problems going on out there right now. Because even the course that we're doing this year, next year's going to change. It's going to be a different set of circumstances. But if we can develop throughout the year, and I know your pain points and I know what's going on, your challenges, we can really move the ball. And that's what my monthly Zoom training is all about. It's all about tying it all together every month that we come together and like, okay, we're walking away with this with solutions and getting better. And I think the more they have that, they're going to be unstoppable.
Right. Yeah. Just being actionable, right? Knowing just not just knowing the information, but like how do you apply it right now? Right. That's always, I think, is a very important thing. It's not just, okay, now we just talked about all this great stuff, but it's at the end of the meeting, it should always be, well, what is one thing you can take from this that you can apply immediately and that you're willing
Yeah.
to apply immediately?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. When would now be a better time?
Right. Yeah. That's
Love
awesome.
that one.
So yeah, I mean, and kind of, well, I kind of want to go back to sales just a little bit and kind of touch a little bit
Sure.
on that because I know you're, sitting in the presence of a sales master. Why not take advantage of, the experience and some of the knowledge. So if you're kind of looking around, and this could be real estate or could be not even in real estate, even like just sales or anything else, what would you say is probably like the biggest mistake, whether it's being taught or just people being applying this in their sales, process that people are making right now that are not getting them the results that they really want and they limiting them from leveling up to that level that they wish to level up to?
I think it's a culmination of things. I think there's, like we talked about before, there's the belief.
Hmm.
So is there reinforcement in their belief system? Is there, are they getting the consistent training? I mean, how many, for example, in your office, how many training sessions you guys have a week?
We actually have a couple. So we have, probably over 50 to 80 hours of trainings a week.
That's
Some of them on
amazing.
sales, some of them on just lead generation in general. So
Great.
yeah.
No, that's awesome. A lot of them don't. A lot
Right.
of them don't do exactly what your office is doing right now. And that's one of the big ones. So if your office is not doing it, I would recommend reaching out to National Association of Realtors, whatever, and finding out who's giving those courses. Where did you go to get your introduction, to your license and stuff like that. But the next piece is who's moving them forward,
Right.
and if they're not, what are they going to do to change that?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So that's a big piece of it, right? Is, if, if you're not getting trained on sales skill sets, how do you expect to learn them? Right. Where are you going
Yeah,
to get
and
that information?
God, and there's so many things that go through the agent's head, or a salesperson's head, of the beliefs. Do I have enough training? And who's moving the needle? Who's steering me? I think of agents a lot. I think a lot of it as like a marina. Okay. And we'll have that great meeting, you'll get that training. And then they leave and they're like a ship without a rudder. And they're just going in directions, and they don't really have anything to steer. And that's where the coach comes in. That's where somebody's helping them steer that rudder a little bit, or just having somebody to talk to that can help them, with that. Because remember, your office, I think that's amazing. I commend them for the amount of training they're doing. But at the end of the day, 85% out there, there's turnover for a reason.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Because they're not getting equipped with the right skills and they're not getting equipped with the right direction, right? Because you can have, the best vehicle in the world, but you also need a map, right? You always think about, like, you can have the best car, but if you're not going in the right direction, then you might be driving off a cliff into a lake, and that's not good.
You're right. I mean, and that's
Yeah.
it's application too. You can get all the sales training you want, but are you applying it?
Right. Right.
Application is everything.
Yeah.
Not knowledge is only potential power.
Yeah, it's only potential power, right? Potential energy, right? You have to let it
Yeah,
let it go for it to
yeah.
work its magic. And kind of speaking on that, right? So talking a little bit more about application. I know a lot of agents like to do like role playing uh with each other, with the broker, maybe their team leader actually has like role playing sessions where they role play sales scripts with each other. Do you think that's a beneficial activity, or should they just be letting go of that and then just going right into like just do it in real time, right?
Um, I'd only role play, probably. I normally would give just one role play, and then I
Okay.
want them to do it, because that's where the real repetition is. Because our role play, what I've observed, they're not the customer that's going to be intimidating. It's weird when you first get that person on the phone,
Yeah.
and all those skills all of a sudden go blank unless you have a script in front of you. Where I have to teach sales reps, follow the script. Follow script, just follow those simple steps, that you need. And over time, you won't need that anymore. But
Mhm.
even like I told my Marines, I told a lot of agents yesterday, at the end of the day, when I have to prospect, I'm going to still have my tools in front of me, because I've been doing this for years. But again, I want stuff that I'm going to have ready to go. I want to know
Yeah.
my list of objections, anything that I can do to offset these things and combat a no. I want to be ready, available.
Right.
So
Yeah,
role play,
absolutely.
yeah. So role play is okay. I'm not against it, but application, more power. Just make them do
Right.
it, and then listen to them. If you're the coach, you listen to them, listen to their phone activity, how that conversation go.
Mhm.
How do you think it went? And have a coaching conversation with them, and just be like, what could we have done differently on this?
Right.
So that way, as they start to play that piece out, that's a different type of role play. The aftermath of that, now they start thinking, oh my God, okay, maybe it was my energy, or maybe I missed this step. Okay, well, let's try it again on the next call. Let's get these
Yeah.
things right. And then they're building that confidence. Oh my God, I got it. It worked. You're right. Who would have thought these steps would have mattered?
Right. Yeah.
And then that
Absolutely.
confidence goes up.
Yep. Yeah, it's learning from your mistakes, right? It's like, why make a mistake if you're not going to learn from it? So those
I've
are just
made a
different ways.
billion of them.
Yeah, so it's just one of those things that, people need to start thinking about, right? Because you're not going to get it like on the first try. Well, I mean, maybe some people will, but once you start seeing what you're, making the mistakes on, and then there's somebody, like you said, like a coach or a broker or team leader or manager kind of helping you around that. Let's go over what we went wrong here, what could we have done better, and then once you start applying these things in your next call and your next call and your next call, right? But the important thing is making that next call, because if you don't make the next call, you're not going to learn from it. You're not going to, especially not in an applicable way, as well, because you're just hoarding knowledge, but you're not releasing it into the world, so it can't come back to you. So,
It goes
yeah.
back to the whole martial arts thing. Okay. It's
Yep.
like, and I respect all the martial arts. I love them
Yeah.
all. But if I'm only doing nothing but kata, okay, am I going to be effective in a real fight? We can practice the moves all day long and give a big ha. End of the day, if I teach you how to punch, teach you how to do a hook, a kick, and you keep over and over, you're going to feel a lot more confident when you get in that ring with somebody.
Right.
And it's the same thing with presentation.
Right. Yeah. Like, I love that. Right. So, so the joke here will be Karate Kid 3 is just a movie. Kata's not going to win you fights. So it's not real life. So,
I do love the
yeah,
movie though.
right. It's great. I love it. Even the shows that they've have currently. So, but yeah, so I think, I mean, just kind of going back on that, on the process of sales, you mentioned scripts and scripting. So when do you think, you know, I guess the question will be like, how closely should an agent follow the script, right? Because I know a lot of people who they just read the script line for line, they're like a robot, and it's like AI can probably do that now. So I'm sure there's a way to kind of use the script, but also use yourself and your own tone of voice and your own energy as well.
Yeah, I say script as a common thing that I see a lot of agents do. I'm more getting into the sales steps. So like I put out one today on the Facebook page because I was talking about the 92% of all client interactions happen on the phone. So if that's the case, you got to do better in your sales. So I just put out a quick 3 tips to create some dialogue. And it was all about introducing yourself, stating why you're calling and the value it's going to have on them. And then you ask them if it's okay to move the conversation forward. So
Right.
like me as a coach, I call people. I'm like, hey, I'm Dan with Above and Beyond Mastermind. I'm calling to talk to you about my program and how it could potentially benefit, your current journey. Speaking of journey, would you care to share a little bit with me about what's going on in your journey? And then would that be okay? And they say yes. And then what do people like to do? People love to
Like to
talk about
share.
themselves.
Yep.
But now it's so confrontational because let's face it, when salespeople call, people got their guards up. They're like, I don't want to talk to this person. But if you're friendly, you're genuine, and you open up, now you can help them. And it
Yep.
creates dialogue.
Yeah, it's about opening the guard, right? Or lowering the guard. And I think a lot of people, they don't they don't know how to do it. They don't know that they need to do it even. I think there's a
Mhm.
lot of people, maybe like mainstream kind of knowing more about sales is just like pounding the numbers, right? Pounding the phones and just going out there being aggressive. If they're not lowering the guard, I'm gonna take them down, below, and just force them into it. And that's not the right approach, right? That's
No, that's a wrong turn. That's bad. That's not good.
yeah.
And honestly, that's where people burn out. Like you were talking
Mhm.
about before, when people are getting excited about a business and they're like, oh, I'm motivated, I'm prospecting.
Right.
That's only going to go so far. At some point, you're going to have to refine your skills, and use them both together. And then you'll conserve your energy, while mastering your skill along the way. And you'll sound like a pro.
Yep. Absolutely. And I think you mentioned this a little bit earlier as well. And I really like that. I think some people might have missed it just because it was, we mentioned it really quickly, but I want to point out that you said that whenever, even currently today, if you're doing sales calls, even with the experience that you have, you still have your tools in front of you, right? They're always there so you can see them. And I think it's important to do that because for a lot of people, they could be going through like a bad day. Maybe they're really experienced, but they're having a bad day, and you know they're on a call and they forget what they're supposed to say. They forget the skills, but having it in front of you, it's like a constant reminder, and just triggers that muscle memory. It's like, oh, okay, this, and they go right into it.
Huge, huge. And it's so important to practice on the phone because the more that you can refine your skills on the phone, it's like throwing the punches, the kicks, the hooks.
Yep.
When you get out in public, you can't go with a script. Hi, my name is Dan. How are you today? You can't do that.
Right.
You got to go out there. You got to do it now. It's time to go. So the more they do it on the phone, they practice on the phone, then they get to really apply it. The idea is getting that short commitment over the phone. I teach people like a short close that I learned from Brian Tracy, and I use it all these years in recruiting. But it's a real quick. If I can show you a better product than what you currently have, is it worth 10 minutes of your time? People always want to know the bottom line. I'm like, look, Mr. Customer, I'm only asking for 10 minutes. 10 minutes. If you don't like what you hear, I'm out of there. But what it does, it gives people like you and I a chance to show our face and show people who we are. It's hard for people to say no when you're in front of them, but on the phone, click.
Right.
I could do that all day long.
Yeah. And people do it all day long. Just, I don't even, people don't even pick up the phone now because there's so many calls coming in and out. So there's some people that don't even pick up the phone at this point. So just, if you can get on the phone with somebody and you have that time with them, it's really important to, like you have maybe like 30 seconds, and then you use that 30 seconds to buy yourself another 10 minutes, and then use that 10 minutes to buy yourself another hour to go into a longer presentation. So I think they try to sell on the first call, and that's a mistake.
Oh, huge, huge. It doesn't normally happen like that.
Right.
And honestly, you're front loading. When we talk about getting contacts, one of the things we teach in the course, we do this right away because all this short close is designed like as an agent, I don't just cold knock on doors. I have 6 or 7 people that I'm knocking on doors a day that I go introduce, but I did it because of my short close. They know why I'm coming. So I go talk to these people, but they already know I'm coming. It's different. It really sets people at ease when they do that. And that's, one great way that they can increase their contacts,
Yeah.
and actually get real contacts.
Yeah. Absolutely. Just getting smaller commitments towards a larger one, instead of trying to just go out there and, try to sell in the first contact. Because like you said, like their guard's not down. They don't know who you are, right? So I know a lot of agents who go, knocking on doors, and they, they get, somebody's just peeking out their little peephole, and they're like, I'm not opening the door for this person. I don't know who this person is. They're going to kill me. Are they going to hurt me?
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So you don't know. So.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that because you deal with emotional and logical buyers, and when you look at a sales process, you'll probably close on them 10 times before they actually make a commitment. That quick example of a 10-minute close is a short close that leads to something greater. I'm going in there to give them to give me 10 minutes so I can actually sell myself on a solid appointment, so I can actually get a real presentation going, with these guys. And then that presentation will lead to something else. And if they're an emotional buyer, they're going to buy right away. But if they're a logical buyer, which is somebody just needs more time I know you know it, but it's somebody needs more time to think about it and look at all the data and everything, they will need to see it a series of times.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when we get into like the social media piece and the, marketing and everything. There's a series of different steps that you'll take to market people. Like me personally, I do a mail out the beginning of the month, and then I followed up mid-month with an email reinforcement of what I mailed, what I sent in the mail. And it's just little
Right.
things that you do that people see that just get them, it gets you exposed. It gets you people knowing who you are. You're the mayor of the community.
Yeah, the mayor of the community. I like that. And I like what you said, that one word there, reinforcement, right? You're constantly reinforcing yourself, your value, your ability to be trusted. These are all things you need to be constantly reinforcing in people, and not just assuming they have that, right?
Yeah, because they don't.
Right.
We've all been there. We've all been there, every single one of us.
For sure. Oh, awesome, man. Really appreciate you, Dan, for coming in and sharing your value. I think a lot of the agents, whether new or experienced, are going to get a lot of value out of this. Think this provide a lot of value, not just like the new agent, but also somebody who is a coach or who is a broker. How do you approach your agents, right, moving forward? So I think it's very valuable. For anybody kind of listening to this or watching this that want to reach out to you or want to learn more about what you do, maybe you can kind of give like what you're most active on social media they can follow you on, and maybe like just kind of reinforce the courses that you have and the products that you currently have out there available as well.
No, absolutely. So they can go to my Facebook page. I'd highly encourage everybody to join. That's the professional development and sales support group. The other one is they can look at any of my courses, but before they do, I would ask them to DM me. They can email me at Above and Beyond, and they can ask any questions. I can even set up a call, no cost to them, and I'll be more than happy to talk to them and just see if it's the right fit for them at the end of the day.
Right.
Or if anything, there might be some resources that I can point them out in their office, and they can just go there and do their thing.
Yep. Absolutely. Appreciate it, Dan. Thanks for sharing that. We're going to leave all that information in the show notes and the description down below, so it's easily accessible for anybody who wants to reach out to Dan and get a lot of this great value, take it even further. But other than that, is there any last thoughts you kind of want to leave with us before I let you sign off here?
The only thing I have to say is just keep pushing,
Yeah.
keep pushing like we talked about before. Just believe that you can do it, and get some constant reinforcement. Get into a
Yeah.
mastermind group or a program that's going to take you to that full direction. But Kobe, it's been a real privilege to be on this. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you, Dan. Privilege is all mine, and appreciate it. And I appreciate you guys for tuning in. I'll see you guys next week. Take care.